Yeah,
Awesome.
there we go.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, just really happy we could take the time to do this today. We had a really great conversation 2 weeks ago. And Heather, I'm curious to learn more. How long have you been using QuickBooks?
Since 2006.
2006. Yeah, that's a long, you've seen a lot of different versions of QuickBooks.
Definitely the monster I know.
Absolutely understand that. Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you never had to change in the last 17 years. Unfortunately, certain things have kind of come up with QuickBooks that have kind of put dozens of customers I've talked to in a similar spot to where you are today. So rest assured, we have some good processes in place that help alleviate some of the pain of having to switch systems, which can be such a massive overhaul on one end of things, and just very scary to think about all the potential issues that can come up. So hopefully we're able to alleviate a lot of those concerns today.
Well, and that's why, just one quick second, Garrett, and that's why I was so glad that you were willing to do this, because when we were talking last week, I realized that not only, right, QuickBooks is going to be gone in 60 days, but then also it's just that we always have so many people that are thinking of getting a new point of sale. And like with anything new, it's of course just easier to stay, like you said, with the devil that you know, than switching. And I personally have switched point of sales 4 times, and with varying degrees of happiness, actually.
Yeah.
And so I was really grateful that you were willing to come here and kind of debunk some of the myths people have about it, and then answer real live questions about how, yeah, no, this is hard, but this isn't hard. And then this is what you get to, and this is why it's worth it and everything. So thank you so much, Garrett, for being here. Garrett works with Heartland, which is honestly the point of sale system that has the best reporting of any of the other any of the other point of sales. That's why we recommend them so heartily.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of times our reporting stacks up pretty well to some of the other big guns, bigger players in the POS industry. There's a lot of customization we can do. There's some pre-built reports that are very, retail specific reports that I think most retailers would use more times than not. How long have you been in business, Heather?
I've been the owner of this business for what I just do 11 years.
Awesome. Yeah. So QuickBooks even predated, your ownership of the business. Yeah. So it's very integrated.
For the previous owners, 8 out of the 9 years they were in business. And
Gotcha.
So I set up all of that.
Yeah. Nice. And is your processing at the business through their processing with Intuit, or are you guys using a different third party for that?
No, I use Payrock.
Payrock. Gotcha. And you've been using them quite a while, I assume.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Nice. Well, one of the good things, kind of similar to that experience with QuickBooks, some point of sale companies come with, I guess necessity might be the right word, to use their processing as well as their point of sale. That wouldn't be the case with us. We do have a direct credit card processing service, but our point of sale operates independent of that. But as far as like a fully integrated solution goes, that would be an opportunity to discuss. But today we'll just focus on point of sale. I just wasn't sure if you were going to have to switch from the Intuit side of things as well, because that can be a whole nother can of worms. As far as reports go and just overall day-to-day operations, what are some of the more vital functions you have within QuickBooks that, are kind of non-negotiables for your business model?
Well, I will still be using QuickBooks accounting software.
Absolutely.
And so, I need the daily reporting for it to transition over for all of my accounting processes.
Yeah. And as far as that accounting service goes, are you using desktop or online?
Desktop.
Desktop. Okay. So Heartland Retail, since it is a cloud-based service, we have a direct integration to QuickBooks Online, while we don't have a direct integration to QuickBooks Desktop where it will automatically send reports. It is a very easy click and drag function to put those reports into QuickBooks Desktop. So it may add about 20 to 30 seconds to that process as opposed to having QuickBooks Online. So nothing just, too cumbersome by any means.
Doable. Okay.
Yeah, very doable. We have hundreds of customers that do it every day. What are some of those reports that you like to see as far as those daily reports?
Daily reports, of course, I want items sold. I want to know what the MMI the maintained, yeah. The MMUs are. Because I do the, I don't know if you've ever seen Cathy's sales to plan report.
Mhm.
So that's something that I upload every night.
Okay.
On my, I don't send it to her every night, bless her heart, she doesn't want to see all that. But I do look at it every day, and then I look at it with her, when we have our meetings, so that's important to me. And then one of the ones I've had a really hard time with QuickBooks is the vendor analysis. There's a glitch in the accounting software for them where I'm not getting accurate data. For that. So that would be really helpful to be able to add that in.
Yeah, and forgive, maybe there is a gap in terminology. You said MMU reports as in like
maintained mark. It's actually my margins.
Gotcha. Okay.
For the day,
margin on hand kind of report.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for that. Sorry, I just didn't recognize that term. But yes, certainly we can take care of all those 3 reports. Anything outside of reporting that is vital to your overall day-to-day functions, or even not day-to-day, just things you like to be able to do?
Boy, if I could somehow, I don't know, this may be pie in the sky, I don't know, but adding my open to buy in, is that even a possibility?
Open to buy. Do you mind explaining that a little bit better?
My budget. Cathy gives me a budget to stick in. And so when I enter my POs, then is there any way for there to be a budget in there for what we're spending? Does it give me the breakdown? So I guess I do have a report from them in each class of merchandise that I have, that I know how much I have on order in that class at any given time.
Okay, yeah, and then just comparing that to what your budget is.
Yeah,
absolutely. We can definitely build those reports of as far as what's on order, what's on hand, and make sure that budget stays, within the budget. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all great information for me. If you want to take a peek at the system, unless you have anything else you want to call out, anything else you want to ask, I'd be happy to kind of walk through a couple of the processes we have.
Yeah, I can ask you questions later about some of the, okay, super.
Yeah, now, later, while we're doing it, feel free to stop me anytime.
Let's ask the scariest thing, though, which I feel like is what stops most people when I'm talking to. It's that it's moving the data over. It's like, how do we make sure that we do it? And it's like when Heather and I were talking just the other day, when I asked her if she wanted to join us for this, she was saying how she had talked to somebody who had done it like class by class and made sure all the data was there. And I was like, actually, I've seen that work out horrible, because I've seen it better all done at once. And so, like, I don't know, how long does that take? Weeks or hours or what?
Yeah, great question. So there are 2 different ways we can bring that data over, and it's all part of our onboarding process. And we have a fully dedicated data migration team was the phrase I was looking for. Yeah, it's our data migration team, and there's a basic and an advanced version of that service. The only difference between the 2 being bringing over 3 years of sales history from the software. And that QuickBooks import is by far the cleanest import that we have from any competitor, any other point of sales that we are merging their data into the Heartland system. It's the most tried and true, the most we've seen the most things pop up and been able to work those out in the years past, just because that's the one we do the most often. And as far as a timeline for that, it can vary based on the size of data that you are bringing up, but there's always hiccups that can arise in the process. Rest assured, we'll get everything over. There may just be some sort of a delay at times, but I always like to softball 2 to 3 weeks as the estimate for bringing that data over. And during that process, you can continue to use QuickBooks Point of Sale, enter orders, generate new items, continue selling, continue running reports, and we'll bring everything that had been created in that 2 to 3 week time frame that we're bringing more of the historical data over. We'll do one final data pull the day before you go live on Heartland Retail. We'll circle that in the onboarding phase, and then it'll be like, you used QuickBooks for the last time Monday night, logged out, and you logged in Tuesday, and everything you did the day before would be there.
So that ticked another thing in. So is it a 3-year history maximum is what's going to migrate over?
So that is it's a cost upfront as part of the onboarding service that'll bring over. And then there's an a la carte fee for years after that. But there's no real set in stone. It's kind of a case by case, depending on how many years, kind of what it demands from our tech team, time, resources taken up. But no, there's no limit. That is just the base inclusion in that advanced migration.
Okay. And can I clean up my data before we migrate it over? I mean, I have a gazillion item numbers that are never, ever going to be active again, but I was told, you know, do not get rid of them. Because of history. Can we get rid of them now?
Yes. I mean, if you're comfortable getting rid of them, you can do that prior to us beginning the data migration, or our team will meet with you in what's called our kickoff meeting, where they'll kind of lay out a whole roadmap of when we're going to start, where we'll be along the way, and soft circle a date more or less where we want to finish, you know, obstacles aside. So during that, you can kind of explain to them and kind of walk through them in the software, walk through with them in your software and show them what you want, what you like, what you don't like, you know, what's good, what's bad, etc. It's a very hands-on process at that beginning phase.
Sorry. Is it necessary to clean up stuff like that? I mean, because, right, a lot of people ask, but yeah, I mean, like I find, Heather, that a lot of people want to do it because, right, I get wanting everything to be neat and tidy, but does it really matter to you, Heather? Like, what is it you need to, like, why would you want to do it?
Just sometimes when I'm running reports, you know, time cycling for one thing, it's going through, you know, 60,000 items versus, you know, I really only have 12,000 items or things like that, just unused information that's sitting there that I am never going to look at again. And, you know.
Gotcha.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, just does that make a difference? Like, because that happens with any POS, right? So is that important then for her to get those cleaned up?
It's really a preference thing. It can, to her, it really does come down to preference, I should say. It won't hurt the system to bring all those SKUs over. I mean, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of SKUs that can bog down some of the report generation time. You know, if we're just in that thousands to tens of thousands range, a lot of times it doesn't slow anything down just with the nature of being a cloud-based service. It can pull so much data, you know, just using the internet. But to what her point was, it's just things you don't really care to see, things that aren't super relevant. Like if you're just running a general inventory report, it can be hard to navigate at times. So it really just does come down to operator preference on that. But that's something you can do before we start while we're doing it and have our team kind of assist you with that. Or you can do it once you're on Heartland Retail and then kind of work backwards once you're there and start deleting more antiquated data.
So it's really just my OCD is what we're talking about.
Trust me, I understand. I'm the same way. I have to clear my emails and my personal and work email. Like I get it. I don't want to see things that aren't super time relevant to me anymore. So you're preaching to the choir with that.
Okay.
I do not have that issue. I do not have that issue at all.
No, of course not.
The only thing is that what I have seen is that some people then use that as an excuse to wait. And so Heather's not like that. I mean, she follows through and, you know, executes on things. But I have seen people like, okay, well, as soon as I get it all cleaned up, then, you know, then I'll do it. I mean, we see that happen with people who want us to help them with their open to buy and help them with their cash flow. They're like, okay, well, as soon as I get all of my accounting perfectly right, then I'll talk to you. And so I just, you know, we just hate for that to hold them up because honestly, we all know that your accounting's never perfectly right. And, you know, no different than your inventory ever being perfectly right, right?
However, the one thing I just thought of is one of the big reasons that I've never done it is because management one told me don't do it because it would affect my uploads to them. So even if I said I was gonna, you know, run it over to Heartland and I could delete it later, is management one gonna come back at me and go, we told you not to do that, and now you're messing up your uploads.
I get it. Yeah. So we do have a direct and native integration to management one in our software. At this
so you have the Orbit. You have the Orbit or shuttle. Okay. So I can do that daily. That was really the big thing.
Yeah, we work very closely with management one. We have semi-weekly, maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, we have a meeting with them and kind of talk through everything about our integration, about our, you know, shared clients that utilize both services. It's a very hand-in-hand relationship there. So yeah, rest assured we can take care of that and the reporting functions there for you.
Yeah, because she's had a lot of slip ups with how QuickBooks hasn't been connecting all the time. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, but I've never had that seen that happen with Heartland, actually, just so you know.
Okay.
Great. Well, that's nice to hear that testimonial from you too. Do you do any sort of loyalty or rewards programs for customers?
I do, and mine is entirely old school at this point. It is the cards in the box.
Gotcha.
System. It is not online at all.
Absolutely. So you're not utilizing any sort of QuickBooks service to do that. It's more of a pen and paper process.
Yeah. And if we could migrate it into the software, I mean, it would be so nice to have that counter space back.
Yeah, I hear you there. And it can help kind of automate some of the process too. So while Heartland Retail doesn't have just a native loyalty and rewards solution, we work with 4 to 5 that I would suggest really good loyalty and reward solutions. And we can go over that, at some point down the line, should it come up, if you do want to change that process. But they have a direct plug-in right into our system that would basically just integrate the softwares together and give you just one clean loyalty reward point of sale experience. So we can tackle that, once we make sure everything's good on the point of sale side.
Okay, so you're entirely online, you're cloud-based, right? So there's a desktop there for that. So is your system then a series of apps that whenever I think of something else I need to do, I need to add an app to it?
No, we're not. So we are browser-based at this phase. You can run us off of Google Chrome's really the best browser for us, but we're browser-based and we're what I like to call hardware agnostic in a sense. At this point, we don't have like a native hardware solution. So what were you running QuickBooks off of? Computer, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Both of mine are CPUs. I don't use laptops and I don't use tablets. They're both.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are those Windows computers, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as long as they run Windows 10, our software works perfectly on there. At some phase, we will have native hardware. There are some tests going on with that. Should that ever be something you'd like a little terminal to have on the desk that would be able to flip customer facing. It's not live quite yet, but that as well as offline mode will be debuting in the very near future. In offline mode basically being should your internet go down, you'll still have access to the software. You can run it without being connected to the internet. And when the internet comes back up, it'll just refresh all of the data and catch you up to where you had been.
Okay. And then if I sign up with Heartland, is it user restrictive where I pay for a certain number of users? Like I couldn't get on my tablet or I could at home and look at it, or could I get on my phone?
Yeah, so the only thing that you are going to be billed for with Heartland as far as the point of sale goes is active places you are selling from. So places you're actually exchanging goods. So you have an unlimited amount of user logins. I mean, if you're at home and you just don't make it into the business that day, you can log in and do everything in the system other than sell something.
Okay.
So you can create new SKUs, run reports, process a purchase order, all of that kind of thing can be done remotely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might actually be able to get rid of my team viewer then, because now I log on, and so that's a cost savings there.
How many places do you sell from in the brick and mortar?
Just one, and then my online account, my Shopify website.
Yeah, so we do have a third-party opportunity. There's 2 companies we utilize to link Shopify and Heartland Retail. One is Accumula and one is Hyperspace. And once we work with them, kind of get their piece of it in, it bridges together, and then you have kind of a synchronized online brick and mortar inventory sales reporting experience.
Oh, great.
Would my all of my SKUs in the brick and mortar then show up on my webpage, or I would still have to manually enter the items like I do now?
You would pick and choose. So we could push them all to the Shopify website, but there is a simple little toggle button under every item on Heartland Retail that says make available online or something along those lines. It's just you slide it from no to yes, and it'll push all of that item's pertinent information to the online store once that integration's set up.
Get out.
How is it currently with QuickBooks?
I have to send all the data to my website person, and she manually enters it and looks up photographs and info.
Yeah. Absolutely. So while there's nothing necessarily wrong with that process, we can shorten that and kind of expedite that in a couple different ways.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about Wait, one question. How about the inventory, Garrett? Will that also be, because like right now, don't you have to Heather update your inventory in your Shopify account on a daily basis?
Yeah, every night I have to go in and remove what was sold in the store.
Gotcha. Yeah. So as long as that integration between us, Shopify, and whichever third party we decide would be best for you guys to utilize, should that be the route you want to go, it'll all be synchronized automatically. So you won't have to do a nightly update of your online inventory. It'll all be accurate. Because it'll basically just base your online inventory and your in-store inventory kind of into one pool. And then you could make a certain amount available online, or it would just continue. You just have one pool and then be able to kind of divert them between the two places of commerce.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did get one question about if you do selling with decimal points. So for example, like the person who asked it has a fabric store, sells fabric. And so she'll sell a yard of fabric, or she'll sell a half a yard of fabric, or a quarter of a yard of fabric. Can you handle that?
Yes, it would kind of depend basically how it's priced. So they would all be set up as different SKUs in the system. We could put them under what's called a matrix or grid in our inventory, where it would just be like a certain type of fabric, and then you would have the different measurements you sell them at, what the cost of that is, and then what you sell it for. Obviously it would vary, but they would need to be preset SKU, like preset lengths, so to speak. I mean, we could always generate a new SKU at the point of sale and sell based on the cost there. There's just no calculating function within the software that say you enter, I want to sell 1.35 feet of a certain fabric, and then it's like, it knows to calculate 40 cents per quarter foot of fabric or something along those lines. So it would just need to be preset lengths of fabric.
Okay. All right. Well, so Megan, I hope that answers your question. And if not, don't hesitate to ask again. So my understanding, just to restate it, my understanding is that, so if I sell fabric, so the difference is that I would just have to enter what I sold fabric for by yard, by 3/4 of a yard, by a half a yard, and by a quarter of a yard if I wanted to. Like that's what I would have to specify when I entered it, right? In the matrix.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. And I'll build a grid here when we get into the software here in just a minute. And I'll kind of show you can tailor it to exactly kind of how you want to do it.
Okay. All right.
And so
she said that answered the question. No, go ahead. I just want to say
the side of that coin. I'm sorry, Cathy. The opposite side of that coin, though, is, Megan's talking about a fraction of an item. What about bundling multiple items from potentially different category or classes, where I want to sell a gift bag or, a gift basket that has, 4 different items in it that are individual SKUs, but then it's one SKU and perhaps, discounted a bit for being in a bundle or whatever.
Great question. So that function is in the works currently.
Okay.
That is in the works right now. That is not a live feature, and we don't have a set date on when that'll be available, but it is being tested by our tech team right now and making sure before we roll anything out that it's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that something you do now, bundling?
It's something I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Absolutely.
Right, Cathy?
But yes, so there are some ways we can kind of build that function without being just a direct bundling function. There are some abilities to be able to do that. But I'm sure the process you've been, Cathy, close your ears, doing it this way now, we could certainly do our best to imitate how you've been currently doing it.
Yeah, it was called an assembly in the
Gotcha.
Their grouping. So
gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, great stuff here. I'm loving this. Anything else you want to call out?
Oh, one more question. So one other person asked, how does decimal selling upload to Shopify then, since they don't offer that option? Sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you going to finish that out with?
Because it's not really that the decimal selling uploads to Shopify. It's that the SKUs, right? So in the matrix, you're creating a SKU for 1 yard, a SKU for 3/4 of a yard, a SKU for half of a yard, and then a SKU for a quarter of a yard. So that's how all those SKUs then upload into Shopify, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it would basically just push those SKUs into the online store. However you have it divided up, those would be the SKUs that your customers would be able to pay for online.
Got it.
She's just going to need to make sure that the volume of fabric she has stays accurate based on having 4 separate SKUs.
Excellent point.
Yeah,
excellent point.
That is a very good call out. Yes, you would need to kind of have some oversight on that. Because at this point, that's a function we call kind of case packing in our industry, or say you have a bottle of water, or excuse me, a case of water, and you have 30 bottles of water, but you sell one quantity, you sell them for a certain price of 4, and then for 10, 15, and you always want it to subtract from that 30. At this point, we don't have that function. That is something being worked on, though, as far as subtracting from like a pool of fabric, so to speak. So say you had 100 yards of fabric, and then just knowing what that count is. But there are reports we can build and be pushed to you daily that you would see, you know, how much of a certain fabric you've sold, and then it would give you a total quantity of those units sold.
Got it. So that part would still have to be slightly manual until you get that set up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you should just know that in the fabric industry, there's only one point of sale that anybody can use, because people don't do that. And so it's, you know, people just want options, you know. It has some limitations. The current POS that does this has some limitations. And so.
Yeah, and there's some things, you know, industry pertinent. So Heartland Retail is very widely encompassing for a lot of retail businesses. Like, we can kind of adjust ourselves to make ourselves fit. But like that one, for instance, that's specifically tailored to like a fabric business. You know, there's certain things they're going to be able to do and really specialize their software for that, you know, they'll just win certain things. Like, there's just certain things they're more specialized to do than we are, but we try to be as inclusive as we can.
Right, I understand. Okay.
Absolutely.
Genius call out there, Heather.
Yes, very good. Anything else? Any more questions coming through? I like getting this live Q&A. This is fun.
I'm also curious about inventory, and also because, like, you know, we're going to have to start this in September. And we're not going to do inventory until the end of January.
Sure.
So, you know, first of all, knowing how to do it, what to expect, and then, will you guys still be there when I can't remember how you told me to do it in September?
Yes, absolutely. So part of our onboarding experience comes with either a 3 or an 8-hour training. The only difference there is price for the work with our specialized, you know, software training team there. But we'll sit there and it's all recorded, and anything you want to fire off and ask, they're going to sit there and walk through it, and it's all going to be recorded, and you'll be able to save it to your files. So should you need to re-access it, train an employee, or just, you know, brush up on a certain function of the system, you'll always have that in your library. And we have 24/7 call and chat support.
Okay. Great.
Yep. So you'll never be, you know, on your own. And as far as working with someone from our inside sales team, like myself, or on our, you know, partner and integrations team that I specialize in, you'll always just be a phone call, email away from us being able to expedite something, you know, if it's a very niche thing or support just isn't really, you know, you hadn't found, you know, happy resolution there, you'll always be able to come to us and we can expedite things internally pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. But we have a very, long story short, we do have a very good inventory count function in the system.
Okay.
We can do full, partial, etc.
Okay.
We have 2 more questions.
Great.
One is, Gail asked if it works for subscription boxes.
So as far as like recurring orders where they send out new subscriptions every month?
So I'm imagining, but Gail, please make sure that you post in if this is what you're asking. So for example, she might do like a month of the word escaped me, a block of the month club. So she might have something that they do like that people buy. That's exactly, so that is the kind of thing. Yes.
Yes. So if they're setting it up one time and have it kind of as a recurring passive payment from the customer, we do have another software that Heartland utilizes for what we call card not present transactions. It's called Payment Manager Plus, and they are currently building an integration between us and Payment Manager Plus that will be live very, very soon. I do know they're working very diligently on that specific service. So that would be billed through that. But we really just kind of get into the niche of specific business to business, you know, what their subscription box entails, where they're keeping that customer's billing and shipping data. Because at this phase, retail point of sale on Heartland's end of things isn't built or certified to store customer payment information passively on the system.
Oh, right. I can see how that would be a whole separate thing, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we're doing passive payments or card not present payments, we do have another software that can bill those on a set date, and they can do it via ACH, credit card, et cetera, et cetera. But we would utilize that software, and it's kind of a sister program, and it's a browser-based software as well. So it would literally just be, Heartland Retail right here in this tab, and then in this tab it would be Payment Manager Plus, and you would just kind of toggle back and forth between them.
Got it. And then in terms of like, let's say there's 4 items that create this block of the month thing, you don't still have the bundling things where you can change the price, but they're still able to like charge that person for those 4 items, and then they'd just be charged for the 4 items, or if they end up changing it, because sometimes it changes. But if they set it up once, they'd be able to push it out to all the people that had bought it already, right? Like that's the way
So there's a couple ways to navigate that specific scenario. One that comes to mind would be basically generating a new SKU. So say it's like a February bundle versus a March bundle. You can sell the February bundle just as itself. And if those items are built into the software already as an inventory, if that's something you sell, individually and part of the bundle, we have what's called an inventory adjustment system. So you could kind of cross-reference, how many bundles you sold, and then do a daily, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever the frequency is, and subtract those from your inventory without needing to process a sale on Heartland. And you would just list that reason for reporting sake as bundle sale within the system, and we would set that up for you. So that way your inventory count could be accurate while also not needing to utilize the point of sale to actually process that payment, but making sure that inventory count is accurate.
But if you didn't care if they saw the 4 items that you were, or because the other option is you can just make those 4 items be, if a total of $50. So then each item is what, $12.50 for each item. And so then you can also do it that way, because then you wouldn't, because I certainly like to remove as much manual, as you can with all of this.
Yeah. So there's both of those processes we both described would be perfectly applicable in the system. There's not a right or wrong way to do it between those two. It would really just be user preference at that point.
Okay. All right. We have another question where she said, so will Heather's in-store gift cards and Shopify gift cards talk to each other?
It would depend on how those gift cards are set up, and the gift card function can be very case to case. Heather, are you using those gift cards right now, like as an actual electronic swiping gift card, or is it more of like a voucher card that you write manually?
Handwritten voucher. It's a
handwritten
voucher.
Absolutely. So at that phase on the point of sale, you would just click that payment type, and we could name it what you want, but just for the sake of brevity, just custom payment type. You would click that, and then you would just enter, you or your employee, the amount that they're redeeming off of that card. And then you would be able to report on how many of those in the payment type section of the reporting software on Heartland Retail. You'd be able to see, daily, 2-day, whatever time frame you want to see of how many gift cards you'd redeemed. So the online gift cards, how would that work on your Shopify store? How do those get redeemed?
It's very confusing right now, to be quite honest with you, because it generated a SKU once where we didn't even know it had generated a SKU, and I don't know how I missed the sale, and then a woman brought in the SKU, and I was just like, oh my God, I've never seen this before in my life.
Right.
And we just entered it because ours aren't tracked internally. I just gave the number that it came from. And even then I had to enter the sale of the gift card itself right then when she was redeeming it, because I had missed that in the system. So it's a little dodgy right now, actually.
Yeah, so we do have a gift card functionality, and I would need to double check with our Shopify integration team and just our overall tech team to make sure that those all do redeem correctly before I give any sort of certainty on that. But I would assume the way you're doing it now can be replicated in Heartland Retail. So I don't see a need to switch, but there could be some opportunity to make it a bit faster, a little cleaner. But if you like the way you do it, I don't foresee, a huge glaring reason why you should have to change it.
Okay.
And does this work with both Windows and Macs, or only Windows?
Yeah. So kind of like I mentioned, hardware agnostic and a bit operating system agnostic too. So as long as it's a fairly recent version, I don't have the exact operating system from Apple on the top of my head, but
Right.
as long as they're fairly recent and can run Google Chrome or Windows 10, which I know some Macs do run Windows on them for certain reasons, you should have no issues.
All right. And then one other person said, are we going to get a link to see this POS? Because she's getting excited.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I can share my screen for, the remainder of this time and kind of run through a quick few of the processes we have, or I would be happy to share where you can register for a demo. It's called a test drive on our homepage. I would be happy to share
it here, and then we can also provide that for people after.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let me go ahead and share my.
Do you have any other questions, Heather? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I think maybe after I see this, he might address
That's
it.
usually how it goes. Once you see it, things start popping up. Yeah, every time. Perfect. Let me know when this is viewable. One moment here. I'm used to using Google Meet.
His dog had surgery, and so he's at home today instead of in the office.
Let me see. Zoom is giving me a little bit of feedback here on not wanting me to share my screen. Let me see what I can do.
Sure.
Open security and privacy to grant access. All right, bear with me one moment.
No worries. Yeah, you had great questions, Heather. Thanks very much for asking them.
Sure.
Perfect.
And so have you in Facebook too, Megan, and who else asked the other questions? I forgot already. Megan and Gail and Michelle. That's who it was so far.
One moment. This is giving me some. Okay, perfect. This should work now. Yep. All right. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Sorry about the delay there. Let me go back to my browser now. All right. So this is our dashboard or the landing page, more or less. Anytime you log in, whether you have it set up to go straight to the point of sale screen, which we can get more into, or especially from an admin access like you would have, this would be where you would land. So this just kind of gives you 8 different metrics of how your business is performing for whatever this time frame is right up here. So we can change these dates to look at yesterday, for instance. I didn't do a demonstration yesterday, so I didn't have any sales process, but we could look at month to date as well and, click a couple different things. And if there was a specific time frame that you wanted to see that wasn't one of the preset dates we have, we could say, you ran a sale from July 20th through the 31st of July, and you just wanted to see generally how you performed. That's kind of how you would set that up. And our reporting function, where we can build very specific reports, kind of has that same framework for setting the time dates there. A lot of these can be changed between dollars and margin percentages. So you can see kind of what your preference is there, however you want to see that real quickly. And then if any of the people watching have multiple locations, we can certainly toggle between the locations we have listed here, and it will generate data, or we could look at all locations put together. Anything we see over here? Do you have something to say?
No, I love that. And it tells you things aren't balancing up right. Yeah, that's I mean, they're reconciling properly.
Yes. So everything you see as far as these percentages is going to be how you performed this date versus the same day last year. So it would be, what's today, the first Friday of August. It would compare this to the first Friday of August last year, because you wouldn't always necessarily say you're open on Monday through Saturday, close Sunday. Sometimes the same date from the previous year could be that Sunday versus a Saturday. It doesn't really make too much sense to compare those days because you weren't open on this specific date last year. So it'll always compare the first Friday to the first Friday, second Thursday to second Thursday. Anything we see over here on the right are alerts. So anything that needs to happen in the system to keep business kind of moving in a healthy pace. So whether those are overdue purchase orders, these are all linked, and we can click into them and then begin to access these purchase orders and see what we need to do to resolve them from the home screen. And then we can just click directly in and then decide what we need to do from that phase right there.
Cool.
Perfect.
So it won't automatically close that purchase order on the close date you set when you enter it. It's going to give you a warning. You're going to have to address it before it just disappears.
Yeah, so you'll want to receive that inventory when it comes in. That way, you know if you're getting everything that you put on your order. We do have a purchasing and a receiving function that kind of work hand in hand to resolve the purchase orders.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. And then if we come down here, we can kind of see a little heat map as far as net sales by the hour this year, current year versus last year. And then whatever time frame we have set right here, it'll show you everything that you've sold, the quantity and the net sales from those items. Any questions about this page?
Not yet.
Okay, I can give a little buffer time in case someone's typing it out. Absolutely.
No, Michelle. So we have one person, Michelle on Facebook, is already asking, is it a monthly fee and is it sold by the number of computers we use? Like, is it by seat, or is it, how does your pricing work?
Yeah, great question, Michelle. So we price based on the amount of places you will be tendering payments from. So there's an unlimited amount of users you can have on the software and an unlimited amount of back office access you can have as far as all the functions outside of tendering sales. So it's not going to be priced on computers that run the system or the amount of people that utilize it, just on the amount of stations that are actually set up to exchange goods with customers.
Got it. Got it. And it's a monthly fee, right? It's not,
yes, it is. It's a software as a subscription model. So basically compare it to like a business Netflix pricing model. You would just pay monthly, and it's a 3-year price guarantee whenever you sign up. So, you know, different features, different market things that come out during the span of that contract can raise, lower, you know, adjust the price of the software. But whatever you agree to on the day that you do decide to move forward with Heartland and sign everything, you'll have that price guaranteed for 36 months. And then once we get to like that 34, 35 month range, our retention team reaches out to the client, and then we'll kind of talk about where we're at now, kind of the, you know, MSRP of the service more or less, and kind of go from there. But more times than not, they're very friendly to returning customers who had been there that full contract term.
Okay.
Okay, and so I have my credit card processing is through a dedicated phone line right now. And so what about if I think it's great that like I go and do an away event and I want to do sales on this, but I want to use a different credit card processor for my Square for that event, because obviously I can't take my dedicated line with me.
Sure.
Can I still do that on this system?
Yeah, great call out there. For pop-up events and, you know, away from general business location sales, there's a couple different ways to navigate that. So whenever you do this, does the store stay open, or are you closed that day and then at the pop-up event and then come back?
The store stays open.
The store stays open. Okay. So what we can do in that scenario is give what's called like a temporary selling station. And that can vary based on the amount of time you need to have it open, what we activate it for, but it's a very low fee. We just basically turn on one more software license for, I think it's 15 or 30 days, and you're only billed for that 15 or 30 days to go to that pop-up event and sell from there. Okay. And then that relationship that you would have with your current processor versus the mobile one with Square, it would be the same function you would do here. You would just enter in the sale in Heartland, and then you would just type in how much they're processing for on the Square terminal. They would swipe it, and then you would complete the ticket back in the point of sale.
Okay.
You know what, Heather, though, we use PayRock also. We really like them too. And we have a mobile device that we take with us. So we use just like a Square from Heartland. I mean, from PayRock.
PayRock. Nice.
Yeah. So they do that too. You can talk to Paul about it. Paul has used it many times.
Nice.
Yeah, there might be a glitch on mine just because of a historical event that happened. That
yes, I remember.
The personal doghouse.
Yes,
that turned out to be nothing. So, okay, thanks. Probably.
We have any more questions roll in about the dashboard page, or any general questions before we move on?
No other ones now. No.
Okay, great. I'm sure that's subject to change here shortly. So we're going to go over to the point of sale screen. So this is the actual selling phase of the software. So right here is where we would start adding SKUs or, you know, just general items to a ticket. Heather, do you do any sort of sales tracking on reps, whether that's for training, commissions, performance, any sort of reason that you would ever assign like a specific employee to a ticket that they're selling?
Not right now.
Not currently. Okay. Well, if that ever is something you want to do, we can support that in its full capacity as far as multiple reps on a ticket, dividing it by items, et cetera. So if that should ever come up, just know we can support that.
Okay.
And then customer tracking, this is where that would happen. We would just go here. And if we wanted to add a new customer, all we need to save their profile is their first name and last name. Anything you see in the system that has this red asterisk right here is just what we need to be able to save any sort of data. And then everything else is to preference. So it could literally only be their first name, last name, or you could have 20 more fields here that you want to fill out. Whether those are optional or mandatory, we can set it up that way. So I'll give you an example here of Brody. He is my bread and butter customer on my demo software. So we can see here just a quick glance at some of his spending habits. His average transaction value versus the average customer is quite a bit higher. He has spent quite a chunk of change with us in the last 12 months. He doesn't return very much, and he usually buys about 4 things every time he comes in. So he is a very, very loyal customer to us. And then this kind of breaks down some of those specific transactions by what items were on them. So he really likes to come in and buy the group of women's clothes or just general women's items. He's buying a lot of smalls and extra smalls. And then he really likes our Renee windbreakers. So we know if we get a new, seasonal order of the windbreakers from a specific vendor, if we ever want to target any sort of marketing towards him or suggest it when he comes in, we have this data pretty quickly available on his customer profile.
And then it's also very easy to just click Renee windbreakers and you pull up everybody who's bought them and then, right, that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're able then to gather those either, because I saw you capture obviously phone numbers as well as emails. And so you're able to gather any of that so that you could then send marketing out to those people too. You're able to export that.
Yes. So we do have integrations with a lot of our loyalty and rewards providers, that I mentioned earlier that we can dive into. We have an integration with MailChimp. I don't know if anybody here watching utilizes them for just general email blasts. We do have a lot of plugins with loyalty and rewards options, or, these emails are exportable to a report. And if you ever just wanted to send specific emails yourself without utilizing those, we can run a report on all the gathered emails we have. And then as those customer spending habits and kind of get very particular about whose emails we're pulling.
Right. Okay, great.
Absolutely. Great question. So just the general dashboard here, we can see, just a little bit more of this data kind of put into a graph form, and then what months he likes to come in and spend his money, which I think is super useful too. So he's always getting ready for that spring season with those windbreakers. And then one tab over from information, we have his history. So my demo software has future dated transactions, just so there's always, a semi decent amount of traffic happening in the system should I not utilize it as much. But for instance, if we wanted to look at this ticket from Brody on the 24th of July, so just a couple weeks ago, we can click in here. We can see what he bought, how much he paid. He bought it, apparently paid shipping for it as well. And then he used a custom payment type. And if we wanted to go even one that would show a little more data, let me look at one of these future dated ones. We can see here that he paid cash, paid partially in gift card, and then used the rest of the balance was cash for the remaining 1125.
Does this match up what you were able to see on QuickBooks pretty much already, Heather, or is this helpful?
Yeah, the only thing I'm not seeing on here is if I discounted the items.
You would be able to see that. So let me show you an example of that. So let me go ahead and process an order for Brody where he has some discounts applied. So one I have active is a military discount. That is just kind of a passive based on the fields he has. So let me go here just to verify that. So military ID, I've set this up to where you can toggle yes or just leave it blank. But if it's toggled yes, it'll automatically, I think, give them a 10% discount in the store. So let me do that, go back. And then if I had a barcode scanner or barcodes to scan, I would then start doing this and they would start populating here. Or we can always search items from this screen. So let me add one of his favorite extra small Renee windbreakers. I will add an Elizabeth blouse, and I will add a belt to the ticket. And we'll say he's going to buy 2 of the belts. So I've now added those lines to the ticket. We can see that promotion, the military discount, looks like it is taking that 10% off of the total for each item, which effectively would give you 10% off the total ticket. Another function we have is we can just discount items at the point of sale without building any sort of pre-existing promotion. So I can just click that and then go to adjust price here, or I can click this down arrow and hit adjust price. And then we can do a flat price off. So say like just $10 off, or do a percentage off. And then whatever we decide we want to do there, we just do that. And then we can customize these reason codes to say friend or family, correction, damaged, etc. And then we would just save that there. Perfect. And then if we wanted to do everything on the ticket, we would just kind of hit this select all button at the top and then do the same function with everything included.
And then I guess, sorry, no, you go ahead, Heather.
Can you do a universal discount on top of the individual line item discounts?
As far as, do you mind explaining just like a total in-store discount, like a markdown on everything?
Yeah, for instance, our birthday celebration days, the last Saturday of each month, you get 15% off. That includes sale items. So if I have an item that automatically pops up on sale, they get an additional 15% off of that sale item, which right now I put under a universal discount that shows down at the bottom.
Gotcha. So our promotion building system in ours is logic based. So we can't, long story short, we can't stack promotions. It kind of confuses the system more or less, but the fail safe for that is always being able to discount the ticket. And then you could list one of those reason codes so say they bring up those items that are marked down for the end of the month and they pick out a sale item, which will then get that additional 15% off. You would just come here, click adjust price, percent off current price 15, and then we would just make one of these reason codes to say, end of month sale or birthday, whatever makes the most sense for you to have in there. Okay. And then we would save it and then we could stack it that way. But as far as pre-existing promotions where they just automatically populate, we have to rank which ones would take precedence over the other ones.
Okay. And can I set timed discounts on, like I'm running a sale on purses right now, and so anything that counts as a purse automatically comes up at a discount without having to line item each one of those and have my girls remember what's on sale?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can set those up to start passively and end passively in the back office part. So you could say, this coming weekend, I want Friday morning for there to be a sale to start on purses and I want it to end Sunday at 4 p.m. Yeah. We can set that up and then you don't have to go in and toggle it on or off. Yeah. It'll just, if you set it up correctly the first time, it'll just automatically turn itself on and off.
Okay.
Well, and I'm super concerned about the profitability of each item because I want to see how profitable belts are for her, for example, versus blouses or jackets, the windbreakers. And so, So what I want to be able to know is that, so this guy gets it. So this guy gets 10% off of that. But then if she gives them an additional 15% off, I want to make sure that additional discount is also tagged to go with the class of merchandise that the belt is in, which is probably accessories. So that happens also, because what I have found with most point of sales is that you have to take the discount, so the birthday discount, you have to take it off each individual item to make sure that the discount is applied to it.
Right. So that should transfer over into the reporting as long as these items are set up with their specific, custom fields, as we call them in our system, but say like department, group, style, color, whatever kind of data you want to be able to report on, those margins should update based on whatever sort of price adjustments we do at the point of sale screen or whatever promotions we build in the back office that would then push here.
Okay, great. And then Catherine asked, do all these customer items that you showed before, does that all transfer over to Shopify as well? For example, like the military discount would be automatically applied. And then would the per sale also be automatically applied in Shopify also?
Great question. I've never actually been asked that before. So I will double check with my tech team on that. If any sort of customer-based discounts, because I would assume then that they would need to log in with some sort of customer profile on the online store, identify themselves somehow. So I would just want to gain a little more clarity from our tech team on how Shopify is on, setting themselves up to recognize like they would in the brick and mortar, where you can just add them to a ticket. I would just need to double check some of that with them.
But then from another perspective, then does the history though, like of what they bought online, does that also go into their history in Heartland?
It certainly should. I would need to, but like I mentioned, I just want to double check that I don't say anything incorrect or make any false guarantees on that specific build. As far as that order history coming through, because I know our sales order history. So say they come in and they want something and then you ship it to them after the fact, once you get it in, that all stays tied to the customer. I would just need to make sure that the way Shopify identifies customers in the system would be the same to how we identify it. And I can send that information out very shortly after the call.
I'm actually pretty positive it does, because
Okay, great.
I have a number of clients that do a lot online, and I'm pretty positive that it all goes over. But to your point, we should be.
Yeah, no false guarantees from me. But if you've kind of had that experience, then I'm sure that it's safe. And I've never heard of anyone saying that they've had an issue with that ever being something that comes up. So probably my lack of knowledge of that being an obstacle means it works.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, great.
Absolutely. So at this phase, we can tender the sale. So
what's a quick action?
Sure. Oh, great question. Yeah. So quick action, we can do a no sale. So we can just kind of void the ticket at this phase. We can create a new item to add to this particular ticket, or we can reprint the prior receipt.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, great call out. And then also, I guess I'll run through these two. This is where we would add additional tax or make it a tax. So say a customer's tax exempt for whatever reason, or we honor tax exemptions, we could remove the tax from the ticket right here.
Okay.
Perfect. Tender this. And then this is where we would pick. So if I had a credit card machine integrated to my MacBook, I would click this right here. We can do cash, check, gift cards, custom payment types, or we would just enter the payment manager plus payment if we wanted our reporting to track, for kind of that subscription box model that had been mentioned a little earlier. This is where we would just make sure that our data stays accurate in the point of sale. If we wanted to process that as a sale in here as well, and not just do an inventory adjustment. So I will go here. I will do cash. We'll say they are paying us $250 for this ticket in cash. We can see here that we owe them $29.81.
Because no one knows how to make change anymore.
That's right. That's right. We always need to make sure we have a double check on that. So it'll prompt us one more time once I hit complete. So it'll tell us again, and we can print a gift receipt from right here. We can just go straight to a new ticket, a layaway. We can print, we can text and email that receipt from right here if we have that data. Or we can print and email the receipt if they want both copies, or we can just generally skip it.
And you have gift receipts?
Yes, we would just click that here, and then we would print the receipt. Yeah, great question.
Can I print, one thing I can't do right now is on Intuit, I can only print one gift receipt with the it's just a paper thing. Where can I print like 4 gift receipts for one receipt?
So as far as the different items on that particular receipt?
And I don't even care if it's the different items, as long as it's a blank gift receipt to go with that. But people buy for different people on one. And for whatever reason in QuickBooks, it makes me print out the receipt itself multiple. And if they do credit card, that means it's 2 for each one. So it's just a lot of paper.
That would be a question I'd want to run through my tech team. The gift receipt function is I'm not sure if it would print the whole ticket as a gift receipt, or if you would be able to do what you mentioned on there. So I will definitely touch base with them on that.
Okay, that's
one thing I didn't mention a minute ago was this toggle right here. If you can see my mouse, I can click here, and these are like our hot item buttons. So say you just want to be able to add something for whatever reason right here, and we just want to see our dresses. We can just quickly click these. And say there's just things you sell right there that don't have a tag on them that you just sell directly, kind of like bookmarks or something, for instance, that you just want to be able to quickly toggle and add to a ticket. We can certainly set it up to do that for whatever sort of items you'd want quickly accessible just via clicking around.
Cool.
Nice little convenient function there. Any questions come through the chat? Heather, any questions more about this screen?
Not that I see. We have about 10 minutes left.
Yeah,
So
we do. So I want to jump over to reporting real quick just to make sure we tackle that today. And we can always book more time. I'm always happy to come back and do another Facebook Live, or Heather, just meet with you again and run through some more, since we spent so much time going through those important questions. I'm going to jump over to reports. So these are our core reports. These are the reports that natively come with the software. So these are ones you don't have to spend any time building or customizing on your own. They're just very general, unspecific retail reports that we kind of did some surveying and found are pretty applicable across the board from our different verticals that we try to work with. So just as an example of one, you said you had some issues with your vendor reporting, right? So this is a very general, this isn't as specific as we can go, but this is one that's always quickly accessible. And we can build more that can be quickly accessible too. But just for instance, this would kind of show you the name of your vendor, the number of items that have been sold from that vendor, and then what the margin is from those vendors. And it kind of gives you a little graph. And then similar to the dashboard, we could look at month to date or change those dates to look at whatever sort of time period we want to see.
yeah, I know that they do a great job with this, because with our clients, we do a lot where we have them put together vendor scorecards, as well as we also create reports about never out of items, and then how much inventory they have to carry in order to make sure that they always have enough. And I do know that you're able to get reports to do all that stuff in here, Heather.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And to speak to that, making sure we're never low on inventory, we do have SKU specific toggles to where, say you want to be notified anytime that you hit 10 of a certain item. So that would be the reorder point, and you always want to be at a stock of 25, ideally. It'll prompt you on that home screen on that alerts tab that I had shown a moment ago. So it kind of does some of the reporting legwork for you. It would alert you right here about an item's reorder point. If I just come here real quickly. So this reorder point is 10, our target quantity is 30. So say we sold, down to that point of 10, it would prompt you here on the dashboard that you have an item that has a low inventory. You would be able to click into that, and then it would pre-prompt 20 of those SKUs onto a purchase order for you, just to kind of be ready to start processing that.
Can it prompt by item numbers by vendor instead? So for instance, instead of like center court necklaces, I don't necessarily mean I'm down to one necklace and I want more of them, but if I'm down to $150 in center court, I need to place a new order.
That is a great question. So to my knowledge, it's based on total amount of items in the store under that, or like total inventory for that specific SKU. So I would need to double check that. I'm not quite sure if we could do it based on cost on hand.
Okay.
Well, the thing I know is that all of those items are the same price, Heather. So actually, it'd be easy. So if it's $150 and each one, like at retail, and each item costs 20, then you could easily determine it that way too. Do you see?
Yeah, you would just set your reorder point to either 7 or 8.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Heather?
Yeah, there's still a tweak there.
Yeah.
It's, I only get 2 of each necklace when I order them, but I order 4 different necklaces.
Gotcha. Okay. And those all come from the same vendor, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So there's a lot more we could kind of get, into the weeds with on that specific, vendor by vendor reordering habits. We could definitely take a further look at that at another time. But rest assured, we could do our absolute best to make sure we do that math correctly in the setup phase.
Okay.
And I also want the people on Facebook to know that we're also going to give you a link so that you can reach out to Garrett and get your own other questions answered. Because what I know, having gone through 4 different point of sale systems, is that you'll think of questions like in the middle of the night, when you're in the shower, when you're walking the dog.
Yeah.
So we're going to get you that information too.
And that stays true for me on the, sales side of it. There's things I'm like, I wonder if we can do that. And I'm in the middle of cooking dinner or something. So yeah, feel free. And I'll have my contact information available for everybody, whether that's you want to book time to have your own meeting, just have me email you some general, answers to some questions, whatever the case is. I'll be fully available for all of that.
Fabulous.
So let's see here. So I want to go into our analysis tool. So this is where we build our own reports. And this is a lot of times where, we get a lot of our kudos on our reporting capabilities, is our ability to customize and build from the ground up the exact kind of reports we want to see as they pertain to, specific businesses. So what's a report that you like to, what are some fields you like to see on a report, Heather?
Or Heather, is there some other question you specifically have? Like,
absolutely.
Would you rather see like how to enter a PO or something quickly, or like, would that be more?
Yeah, I think that seems easy. That seems probably pretty self-explanatory, I would guess.
Okay.
I'm thinking, what kind of a report would
And I'll give you access to our demo software as well. So you can, play around with it to your heart's content as far as building reports, building purchase orders, what that receiving process looks like, building promotions, all that kind of stuff you'll be able to play around with.
Yeah, something like maybe how many dresses do I have that are more than 3 months old?
Yeah, great question. So let's see here. So we would definitely want to have item description, and then we don't need the sales. This would be more of an inventory report. So I would just type in inventory. I would type in quantity available, and then I would need to add a metric of since last. And you said you want to know how many are 3 months old?
Or more
since your last ordered. Okay. Last purchase date. And then we would want to see here. So we would want to set this for 3 months ago. And this data may not be accurate, but this is kind of generally how you would build it, just because I don't know if I have dresses that match the specific criteria in the system. But 3 months ago would be from April to May. So we'll see here anything that arrived here that we still have on hand. So we'll go here, and then this is where we would build the filter for it. So we would want to build an item filter. We would add a condition, and then we would say the group, for instance, and then I may not have a group of dresses here, but let's use one. We'll just pretend jewelry is dresses, right?
Yeah, sure.
For the sake of this, and I still don't know if any data. Okay, so this is kind of what would show there. And if you had a last purchase date affiliated to this opal ring, that would populate here, and then it would show you anything that was purchased between April and May for this specific, subclass. And then you could also add last days since last sold. And then it would tell you as well, if there was data affiliated, how many days it's been since you sold anything that you ordered in that 1 month time period from 3 months ago. So it's a very kind of sandbox reporting tool. And our implementation and training team during that onboarding phase is going to help you build reports specifically to how you want them and have them readily on hand. So then if you like the report you built, you would just hit save right here. You would just name it, sake of time, custom report 1. I would save it, and then I could favorite it as well. And then if we come back here to our reporting tab and go to saved reports, we could come here and see our custom report 1 that I saved. And then we would always be able to quickly access that said report right here. So and then it'll always kind of running update. Go ahead.
So what I should do then is basically print out all the reports that I have from my QuickBooks.
And what fields
onboarding with you and what the fields are in there so that we can recreate them in your.
And I could be misspoken on this, but a lot of that is going to happen as well during that data migration phase, because they're going to be able to bring over a lot of those attributes or fields that you have assigned to specific items or vendors in the system. And they're just going to translate that into the Heartland language and then make sure that it's as parallel to what was going on in QuickBooks as possible. And then during that phase, they're going to be able to walk with you and help you build those reports. So that
Okay.
way you have them, on hand as soon as you're working on your own. So you're not just kind of stuck wondering how to build all these. But the more you play with it, the more it becomes kind of intuitive to just kind of build and stack these reporting fields. And it becomes easier over time, just because you get more familiar with the Heartland language and everything to build your own.
Okay.
Anything else? Oh, I did want to show you this for bringing it to QuickBooks Desktop specifically for you. You would just click this export button right here for this report. If you wanted to bring it, you can make it in Excel or PDF. It'll save to the browser or computer. And then you would just click and drag that file into the application and upload it there. And it would push that data into QuickBooks Desktop.
Okay.
All right. Heather, I can see the wheels turning in your head and the smoke coming out of your ears. Oh gosh. Well, thank you so much, Garrett. I'm so grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was my pleasure to be on here, and I'm more than happy to come back and do anything, specific about any sort of part of the software. If we just really want to dive into one part, I can include, anybody from our sales engineering team to go over more technical questions about the system, whatever the case is. I'm happy to always come back and talk with you guys.
All right. All right. That sounds great. Thanks very much.
Absolutely.
And like I said, you guys we'll make sure that we post a link in Facebook so you can get more information about it. And we'll also link this to our couple of emails. I mean, in our YouTube channel, we have a couple of other videos there too about choosing a point of sale. So we'll add that link for you.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank you very much.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
You guys have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.